How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Crafting Cars. Now, today's video, we're going to be continue working on our 1997 Honda Civic Project car, and I think today marks part 4 of our wide-body Civic transformation. In our last episode, we created our own custom fender flares. We started with some cardboard stencils, trimmed it up, traced it onto some polyurethane foam sheeting, and now we have a foam molded fender flare for basically every single corner of the car. I've been busy in the garage here cutting it up, getting them all done for you guys, and now it is time to lay some fiberglass. Now, of course, fiberglass has to be laid in a controlled environment that's preferably warm if you want it to cure nice and fast, and my garage is not warm, so we're going to be taking this project inside. All right, so here we are inside. Here's my dining room table. As you can see, I've got it covered in foil tape. This makes a really good release agent since it's nice and smooth and non-porous. So if your epoxy does spill on it and dry, you can just peel it right off, no problem. As you can see, we have our 4 flares completed. These are our fronts and rears, and I got them sitting in custom jigs I built. So I built these to match the curvature that these flares are gonna sit at when they're mounted on the chassis. Now, when the flares were taped to the car, I went ahead and measured tip to tip, and that's how I got the measurement for when I built the jigs. So yeah, worked out pretty slick. Hopefully everything matches up when I finally get them back on the car. And speaking of that, I have the fiberglass right here. So these are also matched up to the exact same shape of the flares, thanks to those cardboard stencils. Those are the same stencils we used when we cut out the foam pieces. So yeah, definitely came in handy, and we're probably gonna be using them again in the future, just in case we mess up or wanna make some duplicate flares. So yeah, this is chopped fiberglass strand mat. Yeah, like I said, cut to size, ready to go. And of course, we have our epoxy essentials here. Some resin research center, epoxy systems, quick kick epoxy and hardener. We mix this stuff 2 to 1. So of course, we're gonna want a measuring cup to make sure we get everything accurately mixed. Mixing sticks, of course, and a chip brush for laying it on. And that's about it. This is kind of one big experiment. This is my first time messing with fiberglass, or I've done epoxy in the past, but like my garage floor, we did epoxy, but yeah, I've never done any fiberglass, and I've never done any carbon fiber either. We're gonna be doing that in the future here, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think I have everything staged up, so if I work diligently, since this stuff only has a working time of 15 minutes, I should be able to sit here, get everything mixed up, go ahead, walk on over here, lay it onto our foam flares, take our little pieces of fiberglass mat, lay it over the foam flares, and go ahead and brush on more epoxy. If we have any extra epoxy in that container, I'll go ahead and dump it in this cup. I'll probably just do 2 at a time, and yeah, we're just gonna see what happens. Also, quick note, obviously you're gonna want to be wearing some gloves, and I also went ahead and covered my arms with Vaseline, just to help keep the fiberglass slivers and stuff out of my pores, because yeah, that stuff can get pretty nasty. So, let's see, it is 9:15 right now, and let's begin. So, go ahead, we will do 16 ounces of resin and 8 ounces of hardener. Now, since this is foam, I'm sure it's going to want to suck up a lot of this resin. So we're going to lay it on nice and thick. This is pretty fun, actually. Very satisfying how well this stuff levels out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the first piece of fiberglass on. That's what I'm talking about. Now we go ahead and lay the epoxy on top of that. Just try our best to kind of lay it on nice and thick and work it into the fibers. Yep. 15 minutes. That's the working time is over. What I noticed is kind of as it started to thicken up a little bit, it was hard to work with because it would stick to the strands and almost try to pull the strands right off the flare. So it's best to work with this stuff when it's nice and liquidy. I'll go ahead and dump the excess in the cup here. Now I might go set this outside in the snow. One dangerous thing with this epoxy is if you leave like a good amount like this in a cup or a container already mixed up, it can get really hot. I think it's called exotherm. So yeah, I might just go ahead and leave it out in the snow, or maybe put it in the sink or something. All right, well, I think I'm getting the hang of this. Let's go ahead and bust out the other side. So after I got the first coat of fiberglass on both of them, I took a little break, got some chicken, charged up my phone, and it's probably been about an hour and a half for this one, and sure enough, sounds nice and solid. There's still a little tack to it. I realized that if I go ahead and cut out some more fiberglass and lay it on, that'll save me quite a bit of time sanding, because in order to sand this, you gotta wait for it to cure, I think like fully 24 hours, and I just don't have that kind of time. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some more pieces thrown on there. Here's what it looks like with one coat. Then I'll show you what it looks like with two coats. And there you have it, 2 coats complete. Laid it on there nice and thick. So yeah, now I'm gonna go ahead, go to sleep. I'll be back in 8 hours, pull these things out of the jigs, and I'm really hoping that they retain their shape. All right, good morning. Let's remove these things from the jigs here and see how everything turned out. I'll tell you what, they're a lot more solid than I thought they were going to be. Still have any flex there? Oh, but we still have some flex. That's what I'm talking about. And although the overhanging edges are pretty messy, the actual face of the flares turned out super flat and super clean. Tonight on my lunch break, I'm going to go ahead and sand these down, get them all cleaned up. When I get home from work, we'll go ahead and tape them on the car, see what our fitment's looking like, see if we have to make any adjustments. And then, yeah, we'll decide how we're gonna mount them to the car and get these things ready for carbon fiber skinning. So I'll catch you then. All right, guys, I'm back from work, and luckily I had enough time to trim up these fender flares, and they look real nice and sharp. Turned out really clean, but I got some good news and some bad news. Bad news is they ain't fitting right. Good news is I know exactly why they're not fitting right, and I've got a lot of things that I kind of learned along the way to make sure that the next set fits perfect. So let me explain. So if you guys recall, when we made our cardboard stencils, we took quite a bit of time making sure that our fitment around the wheel was nice and tight and it hugged the body perfectly with no gaps between the cardboard and the chassis. And yeah, that worked out just fine. Then we transferred it onto the foam, and same thing. When we had the foam up against the car, it fit perfect. And as you can see, the stencil is a direct match to our fiberglass piece. So the fiberglass piece should line up just right, huh? You think? Right, guys? Wrong. It does not line up. So as you can see, there's still pretty big gap. It doesn't want to form to the car like I wanted it to. So even with the little bit of flex we got in there, I just cannot make it happen. So why is that? I'm guessing because the curve as it sits on the car is not the same as the curve as it sits in the jig inside. So although we got the distance in the jig to match what it's like when it's on the car, the distance from point to point here to be exactly the same, the curvature must be a little bit different. So that's where we're getting our deviation, but I've learned a few things along the way and I know exactly how I'm gonna fix that. So first things first, yeah, we're gonna have to do the fiberglassing inside the garage. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to heat up the garage. I'll probably just pick up a better heater so I can maintain the 70 degrees in here for as long as possible. Luckily, it's warming up a little bit in Minnesota, so instead of being like 15 degrees and below every day, it's getting around like 37 degrees, so it should be a little bit easier to pull that off now. And another thing, to get the foam, basically the foam mold to sit more flush against the car, when I do lay on the fiberglass, what I notice is if I take the edge here and kind of sand it down to a nice bevel, when I have the foam against the car, it is a nicer, kind of a closer fit. So that's gonna help quite a bit. And another thing, if you guys remember, when we made our foam molds here and we first tried to tape it to the car, it was super stiff. So I actually had to have Gideon help me apply the tape while I was bending this thing and holding it in place. Now I realized if I take just like a little X-Acto knife, turn the blade a little bit so it only sticks out about, like about an eighth of an inch, and just go and just slice the crap out of this thing, it is much more flexible. So that way I can put it on the car and kind of tape it as I go. It's way easier to work with this way. Gives me much more flexibility. So yeah, that's also gonna help out a ton. Another thing, so when I lay out the fiberglass, I think I'm only gonna have to do one layer. 2 layers, I think it's a little too stiff. I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of give here, and it's a little thicker than I'd like it to be. So with the 1 layer of fiberglass and 1 layer of carbon fiber, I think it's going to be perfect. So that's exactly what we're gonna go for. One other thing I'm gonna try using is a material called peel ply. Now that saves you a lot of time sanding. So after we lay down our first little coat of resin, lay on the fiberglass, and then our second coat of resin to really get it in there, you can put this stuff down called peel ply over the wet surface and let it dry, let it cure. And when you peel that peel ply off, you have a nice, even, consistent surface that doesn't require sanding, and we'll be able to put our carbon fiber right on top of that. So yeah, I'll be picking some of that up. And another thing I noticed is when I did the 2 layers, it's kind of hard to tell, but there is some light spots. I don't know if it'll show up on camera. Those light spots are bubbles. So that might have been because I waited too long between coats. One thing to help avoid the bubbles next time is I picked up this little tool right here. It's like a little roller. So between the coats, I can kind of roll out all those little bubbles that I see up here. And that's gonna help quite a bit as well. So yeah, luckily I should be able to make all these changes, and I've got enough spare material to bust out a new set of flares probably in the next couple days, get everything moving again, and yeah, hopefully in the next couple weeks, I'll be able to get the new set of flares done, and we'll be laying the carbon fiber. We'll be right back on track. All right, so that's all I got for you guys today. Of course, I'm still gonna post this video because this is exactly how project cars go. Things don't always go right the first time, but then you make changes and make it happen. That's just the classic engineering process. So thank you guys for sticking around, and I will see you not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that, and we'll be laying the carbon fiber. We will be getting this done. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in to Crafted Cars, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.